Welcome to Sufi Magic. I was probably 5 years old. It was going through the monsoon season of the year, and due to heavy rain, there was no electricity. It was raining heavily and I was home alone with my mother, and to comfort my fear, she told me about the prophet Nuh as a child's story, that many years ago, Allah appointed a prophet named Nuh. At the time, people were worshipping the idols. Nuh forbade them and implored them to worship one true God, but they didn't listen. Upon which, Allah instructed Nuh to build an ark and along with his family, carry all the animals on it, because now I am going to punish these people. When the ark was built and the animals were carried, then it started to drizzle, which slowly turned into a fierce rain. It rained so much that the whole city was submerged underwater, but the rain did not stop. Eventually the whole world was submerged under rain, storm and the sea. But Allah rescued Nuh and his family upon the ark and all the animals aboard. It was such a fascinating tale for a 5 years old. I learned that Allah surely rescues the people who believe in Him. Extreme winds and fierce rains do not scare them. But with that comfortable thought, the idea of all the animals of the world fitting into an ark was extremely interesting. It was a fascinating thought.
Now the fear of heavy rain was lost, but I started to think about all those animals. For example, lion, cheetah, elephant, mouse and giraffe, and all the animals I had learned about by the age of 5, that how did all of them fit into a boat? That night occurred 30 years ago, but like the memory of my mother, that night's incident never left my heart, and I often pondered that how so many animals could fit into one boat when I grew older, and sometimes discussed this thought with my friends. Most of them here would avoid such questions due to the lack of their interest. Some would simply say that it was a miracle. You should not be so curious. Some would say, we should not ask such questions. It is a sin to question. But after all, the mention of Nuh in Quran is 43 times, meaning third most mention, which means that it became inevitable to think about him every time I read Quran. Now, first question was about the animals, that how could of them fit into one ark? And the second question was that we always hear about the punishments of other people, that their city was punished or their village was destroyed. Then at the time of Nuh, why was entire earth was punished with a great flood? Before I give you the answers to both of these questions, I want to tell you a little bit about Nuh. Who was he? And what did he say? Prophet Nuh was the son of Prophet Enoch's son, Methuselah, and then his son Lamech, and Nuh was son of Lamech. His name is among the prophets of utter determination. An entire chapter of Quran is named after him. Surah Nuh. He is mentioned 43 times in Quran, and in Surah Isra, Allah has declared him as one of his most grateful people. In Surah Al Imran, Allah has mentioned him with Adam and Abraham, and also mentioned that he was chosen among all people. And in Surah Safat, Allah has bestowed him glad tiding in all the realms. Surah Ankabut. Nuh remained among his people for 950 years and preached them the truth. But his nation was also persistent, insisting, do not leave your deities, and do not leave Wad, Sawa, Yagath, Yog, and Nasr. And when after centuries of preaching, they did not sway, then Prophet Nuh made a prayer mentioned in Surah Nuh. O Allah, I invited them to you day and night, but they have become even more of a rebellious. Whenever I called them to you, they blocked their ears from hearing me and wrapped themselves with their cloth. I called them loudly and publicly and also covertly. And then Nuh mentions about the efforts he made, and then prays, O my sustainer, do not leave today any disbeliever on the face of the earth. And if you spare them, they will certainly lead your servants astray, and will only give birth to wicked sinners, staunch disbelievers. And then the revelation of Allah is mentioned in Surah Hud, which was a result of this prayer. revealed to the prophet Nuh that none of your people will believe except those who already have. So build an ark under our watchful eyes and directions. And Surah Mu'minun has the remaining part of this revelation, according to which Nuh was instructed that when our command comes and the oven bursts with water, then take on board from every species. And the same instructions with the same words are also mentioned in Surah Hud. The exact dimensions of Noah's Ark are still a matter of discussion, but according to Ibn Abbas, the Ark was 1,200 yards long, 600 yards wide, and 30 yards high, which means almost 1 kilometer long and half a kilometer wide. And it had 3 stories. The lowest level contained beasts and wild animals, meaning the predators. The middle level contained humans, and then the birds lived on top level. And on one side of the Ark was a door, which could open and close like a lid. According to Ibn Abbas, the first ones on board were birds and then predators, and among the animals, the last one to board was a donkey. When the ark was built and the command from Allah had come, and the oven burst with water, and the earth started to spew water, and not just that the earth was spewing water, but according to Surah Qamar, the doors of the sky were opened with tremendous amounts of rain, and then the 2 waters met, causing a massive flood. The rain occurred in a way that the earth never saw it occurring before, and neither shall it see it ever again. It was raining as if someone unblocked the openings of many waterskin, and the earth was spewing out water as if someone opened every fissure and every crack in the surface of earth. There is a report in the exegesis of Ibn Abi Hatim from Zayd bin Aslam, who learned directly from the companions of Prophet Muhammad, that people started to find shelters on higher places to escape this water. All the dry places started to fill up from people. In the exegesis of Ibn Jarir, Hazrat Isa reports about a woman that, due to this rapidly increasing water, a woman feared for the life of her child. She took him and ran towards the mountains, but the water was quickly rising and slowly reached her neck. But in her desperation, she raised the child in her hands, lifting him up above her head, but the water kept rising, and both of them drowned in water in the end. And Isa Aris says that if any one of the disbelievers was to be spared that day, she would have been spared. Allah knows better. Nuh instructed the believers to board the ark. Now, in the name of Allah, it will drift and it will stop. According to Surah Hud, the ark was wafting among them, waves as high as mountains. According to Ibn Abbas, the people on the ark were just 80 in numbers. Even one of the sons of Nuh named Canaan also refused to board the ark. And Nuh shouted to his who stood at the shore that, "No one can spare you from the command of Allah today. Do not be among the disbelievers." But he shouted back that I will climb up to a higher mountain. That will save me from this water. And while this conversation was still going on, in the words of Quran, a giant rogue wave came between them, and that son of Nuh drowned. And not just Canaan, but according to Surah Tarim, Noah's wife also refused to board the ark, and she too was drowned. Finally, the earth was ordered to absorb its water, and the sky was ordered to stop, and Noah's Ark eventually rested on Mount Judy. Noah's great flood is also mentioned in the Bible. It is also mentioned in the 4,700 years old clay tablets discovered from Iraq, known today as Epic of Gilgamesh. In fact, in the 4th chapter, I had shown you such a tablet, where the entire tablet tells the story of a great global flood, and further ahead, I will show you the evidences from all over the world, where you will see the traces of a global flood. But do you remember the previous chapter where I told you about the Book of Enoch? In the Book of Enoch, Enoch too talks about a great flood, and he says, "Messengers of Allah have showed me, which is not for us, but for a generation that is yet to come," meaning the prediction of a great flood. And now, I will present you the answers of my 30 years old 2 questions. And the first question is that how so many animals could fit into an ark. And the second question, why this flood covered the whole world. What was the fault of the rest of the world? Some 3 years ago, about the animals aboard the Ark, a theory was presented that the technology of that era was at its climax. Noah had the knowledge of DNA, and he collected the DNA of all the animals and secured it aboard the Ark, so the DNA could be used to develop the animals for the repopulation of the Earth. It was an interesting theory because in the year 2008, Norway did something similar. They created a very unique kind of bank. This bank was created on an island near the frozen North Pole. And instead of money, this bank stores crops and fried seeds inside it. This bank is called Svalbard Global Seed Vault. And the idea behind its creation was that if a global war breaks out and a global destruction occurs, then at least our crops, fruits and flowers are preserved in one place in the form of seeds. So after the destruction of everything in world, the food can be grown once again. Considering that, this storage facility was designed with such an ingenious design that even if a third world war breaks out today, all the humans die out and there is no more electricity. Even still, the seeds stored inside would not spoil for another 200 years. And now, by the time of writing this chapter, this vault carries some 20 million different kinds of seeds inside it. The DNA theory was a very interesting one, but there was a little snag in accepting it. If you consider this theory, not only you will have to ignore reports made by Ibn Abbas and Zayd bin Aslam, that first, the birds boarded the ark, and then the animals. And among the animals, the last one to board was donkey. But it also makes it difficult to understand the Quranic narrative, meaning the instructions that were given to Nuh that from all the species, take a pair aboard the ark. Can there be another answer to this question? The 13th verse of Surah Nahl. Whatever has he spread for you in the earth has many colors, and there are many signs in them for the believers. We must have read this verse countless times, and each time we must have passed through simply saying, "Glory be to God." See how many colorful things are there. Look at the red rose and the blue sky. But have you ever tried to ponder upon the deeper meaning of this verse? What does the spreading into the earth mean? What colors are being talked about here? And what are the signs that they carry? I want you to pay attention to 2 certain words in this verse. The word used in this verse for spread out is zara, which literally means to multiply or to increase something from singular to plural. This is where the word for offspring comes from zuriot, driven from zara. And the word used for color is laun, whose of the meanings is really colors. But there is also another meaning for that. So, meaning class or type or kind, or a group of beings of a similar nature. If I be honest, then from this verse, the believers could have driven the entire science of taxonomy. Taxonomy, meaning the classification or ranking of all the living things, by which all the animals can fit in a small area, classified according to their nature. I can tell that most of you have still not fully understood what I just said. So I will explain you the meaning of this verse once again. Things that can multiply in earth have different types in them, different kinds, different natures, and it carries sign for those who learn from it. If you doubt this second meaning of the word laun as to be type, then no problem. The 28th verse of Surah Fatir uses the same word in this meaning. Surah Fatir. Similarly, human, living beings, animals have different colors, types, natures, and fearful of God is of that color, type, nature, who are knowledgeable. If you are still doubtful, I will give you a practical example. Whoever of you has visited the Gulf states, they would know that Arabs often greet each other with the words shlaunak. Technically this shlaunak should literally mean, how's your color? But in spoken, It means, what sort of state are you in today? And now starts the most interesting part of this chapter, so pay attention. Nu is given specific instruction with similar words in Surah Hud and Mominau to take a pair from all the families of animals to board the ark, along with your family. I will explain you the families of animals a bit later, but a question before that how do you select a pair from all the families of the animals? Today, land walking, water swimming and air flying animals make up a total of a staggering 8.7 million species of animals. And this is not the population of the animals, but species of them. Meaning, a cheetah is one of these species, shark is another of these species, and human is another species. And according to this, Nu should have brought more than 174 million pairs, which was technically impossible even aboard an ark with 1x1/2 kilometer of dimensions. But do you remember the Dead Sea Scrolls? There is a very peculiar little fragment called 4Q to 534. This fragment carries some descriptions about Nu and something very interesting. Dead Sea scholars, that Nu, a human who did not know anything, but then given the knowledge of 3 books. He was taught understanding and wisdom. The people opposed him, but he was given the understanding of living beings. He was given the understanding of the design of living beings. He is chosen by God, and his way will remain. A human who had no knowledge, but then given the knowledge of 3 books. He was given the wisdom and understanding. People opposed him. He was given the understanding of living beings. He was given the understanding of the designs of the living beings. He was chosen by God, and his way will remain, will be preserved. Are you understanding the text and the meaning of this fragment? Nu was given the understanding of living beings. He was given the understanding of design of all the living beings. He was given the understanding of their species, their types and kinds and nature. Allah had chosen him, and I have already given you its reference from Al Imran. And the last words of this fragment, that his way will be retained. Surah Safar confirms it by mentioning a blessing unto Nu that we retained his way among those who came. Indeed, Allah had blessed Nu with the understanding of design of living beings. Now let's talk about those 8.7 million species. The marine life, meaning the animals who live in the ocean, can be excluded because they can survive underwater. They do not need an ark. And this spares us from a large portion of the animal species BQs in the oceans, from the smallest of the planktons to the largest of the whales. We have discovered some 200,000 species, and 2 million species are yet to discover. So a massive portion of those 8.7 million species is already reduced. If you ever seen the coral reef footages from the ocean, everything in it is a living species. Even the ones that look like plants and stones are also living species and are called corals. Secondly, the insects. Should they come aboard the ark too? Technically, insects do not breathe. They do not have lungs. Instead, their bodies directly absorb oxygen from their environment, and this is how they can survive underground, underwater and mud. They do not need air, so from 8.7 million species, nearly 6.0 million of the species belong to insects alone. And that reduces another huge portion. But even if the insects had to be on board, it wouldn't take much space for insects on a 1.5 kilometer sized ark. And now our important question, that how did the animal fit into the ark? But you have to keep those 2 instructions given in the Quranic verse, that all the living beings have types, natures and species, and the instruction is to take a pair from their family. And from this point on, I want to tell you something about the field of taxonomy. In biology, all the different species of living things are put in different categories. This is the ranking of the animals, and this knowledge is called taxonomy. Taxonomy is driven from a Greek word, taxis, which means to arrange or to sort. And if you have to rank or arrange or sort the animals according to their type, then you would conduct a study something like this. That first rank is life. meaning the first thing is to see that whether the animal counts as alive. And if that animal has life, then it is alive, and taxonomy can be applied to it. It does not matter how the animal looks like. The second rank is domain, meaning that whether that animal is unicellular or multicellular. Now there are unicellular living beings like bacteria, but me and you are mostly familiar with multicellular beings because we mostly see those around us. In fact, we too are multicellular beings. The third rank is called kingdom, meaning is that living being an animal or a plant or just a fungi. And all of us are familiar with living beings like plants and animals. The fourth rank is phyla, meaning what kind of body plan does this animal have? Does it have a backbone or not? Or does it lack a backbone like jellyfish? Animals without a backbone mostly live under the oceans, whereas the animals with a backbone can be seen everywhere around us. For example, cat, tiger, bear, parrots, me and you, all the humans. The fifth rank is class, meaning that whether the animal is land walking or air flying, whether it breastfeeds its young or does it lay eggs. And perhaps the most well-known class is called the mammals. We humans are also mammals and belong to this class of living beings who breastfeed their youngs. The sixth rank is order, meaning whether the animal has hooves like herbivores, e.g. goat, cow or giraffe, etc., or has claws like carnivores, e.g. lions or bears. As of today, there are 26 different orders of animals. The seventh rank is family, and this is the rank that you have to keep in mind. Family is a group of animals sharing same features, e.g. dog, wolf, fox, jackal. All of these animals have nearly the same nature with slight differences, and this is why all of these animals are from the same family. And you must have heard all these words on National Geographic TV, and this is the rank that will help us understand the animals aboard the Ark. The eighth rank is genus, meaning the animals that are very closely related to each other. For example, tiger, mountain lion, snow leopard. All of these animals belong to the same genus, Panthera, and I'm sure that you may have heard this word genus in school. And the last rank is called species, meaning a single organism of animals with certain features and characteristics. For example, dog is one species, polar bear is another, and a horse is another. And I'm quite certain that nearly all of you must be familiar with the term species. Now look carefully on all these rankings of the animals. Noom needs animals to board the Ark. These animals have excluded life like corals and insects. That leaves us with Animal Kingdom members, and from them we would only need air-breathing animals with a backbone. But these animals can still be reduced because half of these animals belong from the Pisces class, meaning fish. Fish to have a backbone, and if you exclude the fishes, then there are only 30,000 species left which were required to be boarded on Ark. And among these 30,000 there are species whose eggs could have been taken. But the interesting part is that we can still reduce from these 30,000. Behold how Quran provides us guidance. Look again at the given instructions. Take a pair from the family of all the animals. I had promised to provide you the explanation of this term family. Family, or as in Arabic it is called zawj, a kind of a breeding pair that can create another family, a kind of a reproduction unit. Look carefully at the seventh rank, which I asked you to keep in your mind, the rank called family. And if you look at the animals from this rank, you will notice something special, that most of the members from a single family can perform reproduction by mating each other. For example, Canidae, meaning the dog family, and Felidae, meaning the cat family. Have a closer look at animals from these families and you will understand that how different animals from a single family can easily mate with each other. A dog and a wolf belong to the same family, Canidae, and can breed with each other. Similarly, jaguar and puma belong to the same family of Felidae and can perform mating or breeding with each other. A significant example of it would be of a horse. a donkey and a zebra, where all of them belong to the same family, Equidae, and can mate with each other. All of you must have seen a mule, who is a result of the horse and donkey breeding. And only a few years ago, lion and tiger were bred with each other, creating a new species where the same family, the members of Felidae family, meaning a male lion and a female Bengal tiger, mated and created a new species, and this new species was called Liger. In simplest words, Nu was instructed to take a pair from the family rank of all the animals on ARK, pairs from the family level, because the animals from the family level could mate and create many new species. This technique would have brought amazingly small amount of animals on board, and after extremely careful calculations, I have concluded that all the animals on the ARK, the mammals, meaning the breastfeeding animals, the birds, the reptiles, meaning the crawling animals, and amphibians, meaning the animals that live both on land and in the water, all of them make some 7,000 different animals to board the ARK. Many of them are animals. Many of them can be in eggs. However, from Bible, an additional information comes that animals should be young and clean. And it makes sense because young means more animals can fit in a small space. It means higher chances of reproduction. It means less defecation. But what does clean animal mean? I will discuss that at the very end of this chapter. At this point, some questions come to the mind. And one of the questions is, what did these animals eat? They could have kept a stock of vegetables and leaves for the herbivores, but what could be done for carnivores? To answer that question, just for a while I want to take you out of Noah's Ark and take you to a hunter-gatherer society, a world of 10,000 years ago, when people in Europe lived in small villages and settlements in the valleys. And these villages had only two kinds of individual roles. One, either collect fruits and herbs from nearby forest, meaning become a gatherer, and two, go to the dense forest and hunt deer or bison to arrange food, and become a hunter. And it was the time when humans learned to preserve meat by using salt, or in simple words, salted meat, which can be stored for a very long period of time. In fact, it was a common practice before the invention of fridge, that they dried and salted the meat to preserve it. Secondly, this ark was not a cruise ship, which was supposed to have fine delicacies. It was a survival ship in the times of a great punishment from Allah, a kind of a cargo ship. The word used for this ship in Surah Ankabut is Safina. Safina, a cargo ship, and the cargo ships are not adorned with luxuries, but necessities. But if you are thinking like me, you should be asking another question. That if there were 7,000 species in all on that ark, whereas today there are millions of species alive, so how come only a few thousand species can create millions of species? Let's make it a little more complicated for you. That all the species alive today, most of these species were not even on the ark.